This chapter will cover the concept of branding and also brand equity. Just to kind of kick off the subject matter of what we'll discuss, I bring you these two examples of something that you may have seen in your local grocery store. And these are things because I have two small children that and have ended up in my house lately. My kids like those tubes of yogurt. It's a pretty good snack. We can freeze them, good for lunches, whatever. So, what I see in the grocery store right now, and these rotate, but what you may have seen yourself if you have kids, is that they're starting to do a lot of co-branding or licensing on yogurt with characters that kids are very fond of. My son, he's 5 years old right now. He's been a superhero nut probably since he was about 2. And he's kind of gotten to where if I buy a generic yogurt tube, um, he refuses to eat it because he has very much identified with Iron Man and the Marvel characters and the DC comic characters. And to him, in his mind, if it's associated with that character, that superhero, it's a better yogurt. A lot of times the product is exactly the same. You may have learned in other classes, or maybe people you know, that sometimes generic forms of products, particularly grocery items, something that's a Kroger brand or Simple Truth branded product, may actually be made by um, made by a company like Yoplait or Chobani, and then just labeled with the private or with the generic brand. But in his mind, these brands are very powerful. And the reason for that is because Superman, Batman, the Marvel characters, they have a lot of brand equity. And what Yoplait and Chobani have realized is that borrowing, right? Well, they don't technically borrow because they're paying to use these licensed images, um, contributes more to how valuable consumers may see their product and be willing to buy it. Now, you may realize that these yogurts are more expensive, okay, because of the brand name than the generic type. But if I know my kids will eat it because they identify with the characters, that obviously has great benefits for Chobani and Yoplait. So this is an example technically of licensed, and they're licensed from Marvel and DC because of the added brand equity that it gives Chobani and Yoplait. And really what they are seeing is a reflection on sales. And of course, in a competitive category, that's really important. So we'll talk about what is a brand exactly. You should know some of that from your marketing principles class, but we'll try to expand it a little bit more and talk about how branding actually works, and then what is brand equity and why all companies are looking for brand equity or to increase brand equity. And that leads into a discussion about why it's valuable. There are quite a few ways to measure brand equity, and I want to focus on really one of those that I think is probably the most clear-cut, easily understandable. And we'll finish up with a quick discussion on customer equity. So the definition of brand equity is that it reflects what we say is the real value, okay, that a brand name holds for the products and services it accompanies or provides. The reason brand equity is a term that you hear a lot about, probably if you listen to business news or read the business section of papers, it's somewhat a very strong, actually, indicator of how healthy the brand is and how much that brand, okay, and we'll talk about brand in a second, contributes to sales and market share. So as a really quick kind of real life example, we eat beef jerky in my house. I don't know if you guys do, but it's pretty easy example. So Jack Link's is probably the most well-known branded beef jerky, and they have some large competitors. But Jack Link's, being the brand with a lot of equity, okay, people have an expectation about what that beef jerky will be like, that it'll be maybe the best tasting and the most tender or the most flavorful. And then this here is merely a generic beef jerky. And I think this is the Walmart. Yeah, great value. So this is the Walmart version. And if you put them next to each other in the aisle at Walmart, one is going to have a higher price tag. And in reality, the package is different, but on the inside, that product may be completely identical. But we know, okay, and do this the next time you go to the grocery store, look at the product that you're interested in and look at the generic price and then the private label price. So higher brand equity will be able to command higher prices. And it's only because people have a belief that Jack Link's is different, they're unique, performing better, tastes better, that they can command a higher price. And part of that is achieved through messaging, advertising, communicating with consumers. So we'll talk about some of the communication stuff in a different chapter. But for a brand to achieve high brand equity, these are really some of the things that they can benefit from. But in particular, the consumer has to perceive that that brand is different from competitors and generic forms, right, in terms of product performance. So it has to do something better or it won't be able to achieve brand equity. It has to be different and usually better. In addition, brand equity usually leads to greater loyalty, meaning that if you always buy either Coke or Pepsi, you perceive it's better, different than the alternative, and you're more likely to buy it on a repeat basis. And that's great because of this thing right here. It's less vulnerable to things that the competition does to increase their sales. Okay, people are less likely to defect and switch. Some of the other benefits are that the brand can command larger margins and they have a more inelastic response to a price increase, meaning that as price goes up, consumers as a whole are less likely to decrease demand. They still want that Coke, that Pepsi, that Jack Link's. Now that would top out at a certain level of price, but for the most part, the increase in price would be met with a fairly insignificant decrease in demand. And on the other hand, it would enjoy what we call elastic responses to price decrease, meaning that if Coke or Pepsi go on a great sale for the summer, 4th of July, or Jack Link's has $2 off a package, demand will actually increase at a higher rate because that brand, people see that brand, it's a much better price, and they may stock up on it. So there's a difference between the price increase and the price decrease in terms of elasticity for brands that enjoy high brand equity. In terms of business to business, they may have greater trade cooperation. They may get better placement in retail shelves. People recognize the brand, they know it, so marketing communications can be more effective. Maybe they don't have to run as many placements of TV commercials, etc. And I just mentioned licensing, so there may be licensing opportunities, which are great because this provides additional revenue to the brand or the company that certainly you wouldn't see happen with Great Value beef jerky. But maybe there's like a trail run series or something and they find a way to license with Jack Link's. They would probably go for Jack Link's. They wouldn't go for Great Value beef jerky. And what we'll talk about also is that high brand equity provides pathways, avenues, and great opportunities for brand extensions, which is using the brand in other types of products that are usually somewhat similar, but sometimes maybe an entire different category. So we'll get there as well. I thought it would be fun also just for a second for you to think about what is the world's most valuable brand, because brand equity reflects value. So before we talk about how these things may be measured, think about some of the most important brands in your life, some of the most powerful, the strongest, most well-known brands. And this data that I have here is from 2016 to 17. So take a couple minutes and think about it. Who do you think are the brands that are most valuable? So this is the data from 2016, okay? Apple, a lot of you may have said that, Google, Microsoft. So there's your tech firms at the top. What I would urge you to pay attention to is brand value. This guy right here. Look at the difference between Apple and Google. It's pretty staggering to see that Apple has a brand value of 154 billion and the next in line is only at 82. That really shows you the power of Apple. And if you pay attention to that tech industry, you may also realize that Apple's not really a leader globally. I mean, they're a leader, but they're not the market leader in the global tech space or smartphone space, but they probably will be. And if you mention any of these too, maybe not, maybe some of these are somewhat surprising. The ones I like to point out are the companies that have been around for decades and decades. So Coca-Cola, Disney, McDonald's, these are the guys that have been around for quite some time. And it's nice to see them still hanging around at the top. Okay. Just as a quick comparison, that's sort of interesting to go back about 6 or 7 years. You can see that Apple was still at the top. But if you look at the difference in brand value between then and now, they've got about $100 billion additional. Microsoft is still hanging at the top. They've got an increased value too. And you can just see how some of the companies have moved in and out. Marlboro, really far down the list now. The same with Intel and Nokia. So let's have a quick discussion about how we measure brand equity. Now, what I showed you here, this is actually measurements that come from a company called Interbrand. Okay. And this is how they conduct the valuation of these brands in terms of assessing that dollar figure. So it's based partly on finances, okay, and market sizes, which is demand drivers, really. How much they've actually earned, how powerful the brand is in people's lives. So we talk about the role of branding. That's its own component for them, and that leads to brand earnings, how much at the end of the day the brand is making. And then these are all basically kind of marketing activities. And we won't go into these in detail, but this is what they use to come up with that brand value. So it's about 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 kind of concepts or constructs they use to make that determination. So let's talk a little bit about the strategic aspect of branding. And this term, strategic brand management, is the term you will hear if you have any interest in working on a particular brand and growing that brand. You're probably part of that brand management team or the strategic brand management team. And this is a combination of designing and implementing any of the marketing activities, any and all, that would build, measure, and manage brands as much as possible. Okay, so managing the brand is an extensive job in itself. Being able to measure and know movement of the brands among the competitive landscape and the category, and also building the brand so that it can be something that consumers are loyal to. And this includes things like positioning the brand. How do you want the brand to be seen by consumers? How do you want the brand to be compared to competitors? How do we implement brand marketing? What is the time frame? That's part of planning, right? Do we have messages we need to change? Are we repositioning the brand? How is the brand doing? And then there's always this issue of growth. Brands always must be thinking about how to grow in the future in order to sustain their brand value. And just take a minute to think about a brand like Gatorade. Gatorade is the market leader in sports drinks, and they have been for a long time, but they haven't always hit the mark. They've had years where they kind of overextended, lost a little bit about what their brand meaning was. Their product portfolio became way too large, and finally they scaled it back down to go back to their real positioning scheme. And so you may remember that there may have been flavors or varieties of Gatorade you used to drink that are no longer around. They actually did a pretty big cutting of a lot of their brands. So now we'll talk about the definition quickly. This should be something that's you remember, but a brand can mean a lot of things, and it actually does include a lot of different aspects of products and companies. So brand is a name. So here it's Lego, it's Mega Bloks, it's a sign. Okay, it could be this whole thing right here. It's the symbol. Okay, this thing is also a symbol. It's the registered trademark. It can be a design of a name or of a product itself, what that product actually looks like. Think about a product like we have a lot of Nerf guns in my house right now and lots of Nerf bullets. And most of the Nerf bullets are blue and orange, and that's part of the brand Nerf design for their bullets. Or a combination of these things. And the purpose of a brand is to identify that product, the goods, the services of one company to differentiate them from competitors. And if what you might notice when you look at generics at the grocery stores, a lot of them actually try to mimic in their packaging, their labels, their logos. They try to have some resemblance to maybe the category leader. And that's in an effort to make consumers think that the product is equivalent. And like I said, most times it is, but maybe sometimes it's not. That's really up to the consumer to decide. So it's the packaging, it's what the bottle looks like, it's what the color of the bag is, it's the shape of the logo, the outline of it, and it can go into really, really minute details. So when we talk about marketing or branding as a part of marketing, this, people argue, and I don't think I disagree, is probably the most distinctive skill of marketers. Brand management is a role that good ones are coveted really, really highly in the marketplace. And a lot of your chief marketing officers have built their careers up to that level through a pathway of brand management. So, if it's something that you're interested in, definitely start to think about, how do you build a good brand? How do you build your brand? If you're going to be going on the marketplace for a job soon, what is brand you? Now start to think about that. What do you stand for? So successful brands then are viewed by consumers as genuine. They're authentic and real in what they say and do. Okay, so I think what that kind of gets at is trust. Consumers trust what the brand says they will deliver and what they will do, and the brand usually follows up on that. And branding is really applicable to anything that's in the consumer choice set. It could be products, services, any nonprofits, companies that are vying for donations, right? Ideas, a person, a place. Every type of something needs a brand. And that's why you, perhaps getting ready to go on the job market, you need to decide what your brand is too, okay? What do you hope to deliver or plan to deliver to the workforce? So just something to think about. Brands are a very important thing for consumers. It is the promise between the company and the consumer of what they will do for the customer or the consumer. It sets expectations about what that consumer will receive in the exchange. And it influences how risky the consumer perceives that exchange to be. So sometimes the company must, or the firm must, see it as a way to reduce risk, right? If it's a brand that you trust, maybe the extensions of the product, a new type of product, a new flavor, might go easier with the consumer because they don't see it as risky. They know what to expect. Consumers use brands to simplify decision making. It's one of those heuristics where if you see, that Jack Links or that Coke or that Disney logo or that Apple logo, you feel like that's a company you trust. They stand behind their products, and it may help you make your choice quicker. Brands certainly take on personal meaning sometimes. You may have a couple of brands in your life that are really integral to things you do every day. Some people are very loyal to car brands. I'll only buy a Toyota, or I'll only buy a GM, or I'll only buy a BMW. And sometimes, they become part of a person's identity. Think about the clothes that you wear. Maybe you don't care. Maybe there was a point in your life where you only shopped in one particular store or one type of store, and that brand became part of your identity, who you were. I know, just kind of an easy example. If you're a sports fan, who's your favorite baseball team, your favorite football team or basketball team, whether college or pro? Probably your favorite team, if you're a really big fan, that brand is part of your identity. And you will buy products that have that logo on it. So I think that's the easiest example of identity in terms of brands. But one thing that most marketers think about, and probably the ones who don't think about it have some trouble, is what is the brand's promise to the consumer? And is that promise easily understandable by the target market or markets? I have this little video here for you, and I hope that it conveys well on the Tegrity lecture. So this is one commercial from Pampers. Just think about it as you watch it. You may not be a parent, but hopefully you can still get an idea of what the brand promise is. I'll play that one more time.
New Pampers. Unlike ordinary diapers with 2 layers, Pampers have 3 absorbent layers to stay up to 3 times drier. So babies can sleep soundly all night. Wishing you love, sleep, and play. Pampers.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the sound would come across. I'm using a headset with a microphone, so that's why I played it again. So the brand promise there, in my opinion, I'm a mother, I have 2 small children, is that your baby will be comfortable and happy and you'll get sleep. And I think that for most new parents, those are very important things. And if the brand delivers that, or if you perceive that it delivers that, then they've met that promise. Here's another one from Swiffer.
My name is Lee Kaufman, married to Morty Kaufman. Now that I'm getting older, some things are harder to do.
This is not a safe thing to do. Be careful, babe. There should be some way to make it easier. Let's open it up and see what's cooking.
Oh, I like that. Look at this. It's got a handle on it. I don't have to climb up. This yellow part up here really catches a lot of the dust. Did you notice how clean it looks? Morty, are you listening? Morty?
I'm listening here.
Okay, so from Swiffer, I'm not sure what you got from it. For me, the brand promise is that it's so easy, right? You can clean your house and it's really easy. And they're showing this elderly couple, and she's kind of a small, tiny old lady, and she can do it, well, so can you. So to me, that's a pretty simple brand promise that your house will be clean with little effort and it's easy. So that's the end of part 1.